pretty helpless to ever amount to anything. Special thanks, again, to Senator Ann Haskell and Representative Karen Fry, Bangor, for placing my name in nomination for this term, and obviously to the whole legislature for entrusting me with the duties of the Office of Secretary of State. I'm sorry that you missed the actual event where I took my oath. The executive had reserved a custodian's closet for the act, but we had to use it while Goodfellow was taking his break, so instead it didn't mesh with this event. I apologize for that. We're nearing the end of the sesquicentennial observation of the Civil War. One of the most famous letters to come out of that catastrophic event was actually written by an officer in the Rhode Island Volunteers to his wife just days before he was engaged in and then killed in the first battle of Bull Run. There's a famous couple of lines in there that he writes about the noble purpose of the war. And he writes, "If it is necessary that I should fall on the battlefield for my country, I am ready. I have no misgivings about it, or lack of confidence in the cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not call for falter. I know how strongly American civilization now leans upon the triumph of the government, and how great a debt we owe to those who went before us through the blood and suffering of the Revolution. And I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all the joys of this life to help maintain this government and to pay that debt." Sullivan Ballou understood that the fight to support the government was really the fight to support freedom, which is our right as citizens to govern ourselves and not in fear stand subject to petty actions by some despot. I am grateful that brave, conscientious Americans stand at this hour in harm's way to protect the same idea. So empty efforts that attempt to portray false power are just games and don't really get under the skin. My work goes on, as does yours, as we all strive forward for a better future. We live in dangerous times. In any direction we cast our eyes, we see turmoil. The civil war raging in Syria, tension in Ukraine, distrust in North Korea, piracy in the Persian Gulf, and our soldiers, sailors, and airmen deployed and on high alert in many very, very dangerous places around the world keep us lighting candles and tying yellow ribbons as a show of hope for their safe return. Even the happy circumstance of falling oil prices contributes to a disturbing sense of global injury. Cheap oil isn't good for everyone, and as nations face crippling deflation of their currencies, unrest may well follow. My instincts at one time would have been to turn off the television, close up the front door, go out back and plant a garden. While it's always more comfortable to pretend that all is well and our problems will go away by themselves, the reality is they don't. Superheroes only live in comic books. I learned from the examples of so many around me, especially my parents, Bob and Sue Dunlap, that no one will come rescue you when things go wrong. Well, the Warden Service will come rescue you. You have to roll up your sleeves and get to work yourself. My late father, an energetic and creative man, never knew quite what to make of me. I wasn't like everyone else in my family. They were always making something. I was more apt to lay around late into a bright, sunny Saturday morning, read a book, daydream, whatever. It was a source of tremendous frustration for him. And I remember one time he explained that I had absolutely no shame, and that he had never seen a kid as lazy as me. He would have been stunned at what's transpired to me since those carefree days. I believe strongly in what I do, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue in this role bestowed on me by the legislature. Being able to help people access their government is one of the great blessings of my life, and the calling is strong enough to keep me coming back. We engage in no small tasks. Nothing I'm asked to do is bother, nor do I ever have anything more important to do, despite the protestations of those who come to me with hat in hand, with what to them is an issue of great importance. We have in the Office of the Secretary of State very simple rules of engagement. One, we always tell it like it is, we never hedge, we never blame others or dissemble. Two, the world stops for kids. Young people are our future leaders, and taking time to listen to them, answer their questions, and show them the respect of any citizen pays long dividends. Free. And this is the most important. Do it now. Post-it notes and reminders are urns of forgotten tasks and mean that it appears that we consider something important to a citizen unworthy of our immediate attention. We've been through a lot since I first stood here. At the time when I first got elected, still fresh in my service in the House, I meant it when I said that my goal for the legislature was for people to see their representatives and senators as highly effective because they had a good experience in my office. We've had a lot of success there, which was at many times uncertain. There was a long-term oil motor vehicle computer upgrade, which was perfectly and deftly finally executed by our staff, led by my Information Services Deputy, Donna Grant, who's in the gallery. And Donna made me promise, when I appointed her, that I would never make her speak in front of a policy. But Donna, I'd like you to stand and accept the applause. Donna can't talk about her previous employment as top secret, but when I was out of office, she would call me as well to check in on me. And so it's tough to say goodbye to everybody. She said, "Oh yes, I remember when they closed our First Black project." I said, "Well, not something like that." But she's a source of great strength and expertise and kindness to all of us, as in all my staff. Very welcome. Now, 8 years, 10 years later, we're nearing the completion of upgrades for all of our facilities to better serve our customers, our citizens, our neighbors, and working to keep pace with all the expectations and opportunities of the 21st century. We're going to have a lot to talk about this session as we consider how Maine will respond to the latest feints by the federal government towards getting into several states to conjure up for them, at no cost to the federal government, for a national ID and citizen tracking system called the Real ID Act. Still fraught with problems and sold with fantasy, you may get ahead of how I feel about it. We'll want to engage the legislature for guidance in that important policy. We built the central voter registration system and provided expedited service to military overseas voters as well as people with disabilities. It's changed the way we do elections. Many of you who served don't remember the old days when we didn't have all that stuff. But the help of the federal government lent us to do that is now pretty much gone, and they expect us to continue doing it without the benefit of additional federal funds. So we're going to be chatting with you about that as well. We'll be working on rebuilding our corporation databases, and the National Association of Secretaries of State will continue to grapple with Congress over the issues around corporate formation, which, if they get their way, will be an incredible burden on businesses and not achieve any of the goals Congress has in mind. I know that sounds very unusual for how Congress works. We call that process the Real ID business class. At the archives, we're putting the resources the last legislature asked us to use for securing our electronic history to work, and are beginning to implement what will be the underpinning of a digital archiving policy. We're going to keep working on that, and with a largely new and highly energized staff, we're planning on getting a lot done over the next 2 years. We have a lot to do. I can tell you plenty more, and I will. You'll see me every day in the halls and in your committee rooms, and I'll strive to answer your questions and help you craft solutions to the problems that hector our goals of building a stronger, more prosperous Maine for our children. But as we bend to that work, let's never forget those who handed off the promise of freedom to us and entrusted us with the promise of the better tomorrow that we live in. Honoring those who stood fearless in times of danger to cast forward the blessing of freedom to the next generation. Last year, we took the opportunity of better promoting the Vote and Honorable Veterans program to profile a different veteran every day on our department Facebook page. It was enormously popular, and I still receive thanks from people for highlighting the service of someone they care about. I thought about how best I could convey the spirit of my passion for this work today. The executive stated yesterday that actions speak louder than words, and he's right. But words are important too. So let me conclude with a bit of a mix. In the fall of 2013, I participated in the somber yet glorious interment of the remains of Corporal Robert Tate in my hometown of Bar Harbor. Corporal Tate died of starvation in the North Korean prisoner of war camp. Bringing home his remains to rest in our hometown was one of the most meaningful events I've ever been a part of in my professional life. In my actions, I will never forget always strive to serve. And when I serve, I will serve my country, my entire soul. To honor what I strive to be, let me leave you with a poem, taking a page out of the Attorney General's book. Written by Herman Melville, who many of you don't realize he wrote one Moby Dick. He's also an excellent poet. In 1864, it's called In the Prison Pen, about the sad plight of prisoners of war. He could have written about Robert Tate. Listless he eyes the Palisades, and centuries in the rear. 'Tis barren as a pelican beach, but his world is ended there. Nothing to do, and vacant hands bring on the idiot pain. He tries to think, to recollect, but the blur is on his brain. Around him swarm the flaming ghosts, like those on Virgil's shore, a wilderness of faces dim, and pale ones gashed and o'er. A smiting sun, no shed, no tree. He totters to his lair, a den that sick hands dug in earth, ere famine wasted there. Or dropping in his place he swoons, walled in by throngs that press, till forth from the throngs they bear him dead, dead in his meagerness.